You guys, there's an American on the loose in Korea playing the real-life Squid Game.
상금을 위해 게임을 계속할지 아니면 여기서 중단할지는.
He's trying to escape. We're talking about Johnny Somali, a streamer, a shock streamer, essentially some dude that plays pranks on people in the worst possible way in public, streams it on the internet, and tries to get a rise out of people, but does it to such an extreme that he's already banned from several countries, already spent time in jail in Japan, and in the latest episode of his drama, he's been arrested and detained in Korea, although I don't think he's currently inside a jail cell, but definitely he is not allowed to leave the Republic of Korea. So this dude just gets kicked off of every platform, so it's hard to say, like, is he a YouTuber? Is he a Twitcher? Is he a stream? He's been on all the platforms and he gets kicked off, and he's even on a platform called Kick, and I think he got kicked off of Kick as well. But this guy is 24 years old, so he's a relatively young guy. His humor is in that young adolescent type of male video gamer. Not that all video gamers are like this, but somebody who finds humor in sort of pranks and doing things that are shocking, which, you know, on some certain healthy level is normal, but he takes it way to the extreme, and maybe that's why it gets some views. But he's taking it to extremes where it really starts to pinch a nerve in societies, and also starts to a bit unravel the social fabric. So there's no better way to explain what's going on and how bad he is than just looking at some of the videos. Okay, so he was on a bus, and he blasted through his portable Bluetooth speaker some North Korean music really loud to try to get rises out of people. He got into fights on the bus. Even it looked like a physical altercation. He got thrown off the bus, and somebody followed him off the bus. And he should know that when you're on the bus, you have no idea what kind of loose cannons you have there on the bus. I mean, people wanting to get into arguments. So he thought that he wanted to provoke other people. Let me tell you, I think I have already told you, there are people on those buses that want to be provoked. They just want an excuse to then just get out their aggression in some sort of justified fight. Although, when we keep going through all these examples, and even just this one bus example, even if you weren't looking for a fight, you would see, this is how the Korean public, I think, is dealing with it. It's like, the people who attacked him shouldn't have attacked him. There should be no physical violence. But we kind of understand, and I think that's in general the public's reaction. If you're not outright, oh, he got what he deserved. Well, then he went into a convenience store, and, you know, a lot of you guys who want to go to Korea, you want to experience this really cool convenience store experience where you eat the food in a convenience store. It sounds so simple, but it actually is I love it. It's really cool. But he was told that he wasn't supposed to be drinking, and I guess that's a thing. You're not supposed to drink. But I think if you're discreet about it and you're not like crazy, it depends on the employee, and there's usually like only one employee doing everything, you know, in the convenience store. But this dude came in drunk, and he was being obnoxious. And then so the lady seemed very politely, because she couldn't speak in English, but she seemed to have communicated quite well. And when I saw, the video, it looked like she was being very polite about it, saying like, you can't drink in here. Well, this dude got mad and then started dumping the contents of his instant ramen all over the table. All right, another video. He randomly approaches people on the street and hear women in particular asking if he could eat their cookie. And the first are like, huh, what? Totally disgusting. Then he interrupts the dance crowd in Hongdae, people who do the street performances like the busking but dance, and really getting in the way and interrupting their performance. Also in Hongdae, he was just verbally assaulting women, degrading them, and of course mentioning their body parts. Then the thing that got, I think, after all of this started to add up, the big thing was that he's desecrating the comfort women statues with his presence near them. So had he actually just done graffiti and defaced property, that might have been easier to nab him. But what he did was lascivious acts with the statue, like making out with it, kissing it, twerking on it, like rubbing baby oil over his shirtless torso, and then grinding up on it and doing all this kind of like stuff. And then I think he didn't understand it at first, what the statue was. From one video I saw, I thought he said like, why are they so upset with it? And it wasn't exactly clear whether he meant the Japanese or Korean. I don't think he even knew. Maybe he even thought it was like a Japanese statue. Eventually, I think he understood that it was, a statue for the Korean people's resistance against colonialism. But then that didn't stop him from like doing all that kind of nasty stuff. And he wanted to go to all the comfort women statues like a Legend of Zelda like a video game to try to collect coins, at all the statues in Seoul. Just weird. Oh, and I forgot, like even on the subway, he was playing not safe for work videos and pretending like he let out the audio and tried to capture people's reactions. So all those things, all those together created this massive hatred against him, to the point where there were streamers, Korean streamers, bounty hunting him, trying to figure out where he was, and then I guess creating some sort of reward system if you beat him up, because he got beat up several times. One person in particular that was shown a lot in the news, they said that like, oh, he was just a passerby. So I don't know if that changes, perhaps, if it's an easy excuse for the person who did hit him to get out of some sort of police trouble, to say they're a passerby rather than it being premeditated, like they were hunting him down, or whether it was really a passerby. But in either scenario, it's so not out of the question to see how people, whether you're just a passerby or whether you were hunting him down like it was the Squid Games, to hit him. And I think that's what Korean people are a little bit struggling with, because everybody in their mind wants to hit him. Like, I think if everybody is honest, from a grandma to the toddler, if they see this kind of behavior and this disrespect of everybody's, I think, natural reaction is to at least slap him, hit him, so I think the emotion is completely justified. But then even Korean people are kind of looking at this kind of carefully, being like, yeah, but you shouldn't, we can't have this, like, condone hitting him, Because who is going to draw the line? Because in this case, almost everybody, I think, is in agreement. Like, oh, he deserves a punch. But you don't want to open up this can of worms to have the bureau of who deserves a punch, because Korean people immediately know that that bureau would be abused, and people who didn't deserve a punch and are being threatened with a punch can be hustled and shaken down, and it can be weaponized against them. Ironically, in this situation, up until recently, so all this is happening in October, right? Johnny Somali actually is, in the police eyes, in what they can do, not in their hearts, not in the police's hearts, most likely, but in the police's eyes in terms of the law, Johnny Somali is the victim. Because he is doing all these things that aren't technically illegal, but the natural reaction of wanting to smack him in the face and then actually going through with it makes the attacker the perpetrator and Johnny Somali the victim. So people were having a really tough time going through this mental pretzel, because obviously Johnny Somali is the instigator. But the way that the law works, especially with the level of the way that he's acting, it would most likely just go to the local police, if at all. If at all. He even went in front of a police station and twerked and was somewhat harassing the police. But there was nothing really illegal about it. And I think he's really testing the boundaries. Now, where he is now, if you've seen the latest headlines, he is now facing up to 10 years in prison. They finally were able to find something. Now, whether this is trumped up or whether this is, not completely true, or whether it is true, he is facing that 10 years for not for any of the things that I just saw, but basically drug charges, the majority, and then potential sexual harassment. Those two charges are being investigated at the moment, and because of that, Johnny Somali cannot leave the country. Initially, he was arrested and detained for his own protection, the police said, and then he sort of gloated about it. This is when the bounty hunting of the streamers trying to track where he was and then just beat him up was at its height. And so the police said, we're detaining you for your own safety. So he has had a long history of doing the same thing in other countries. He was in Japan, where he actually was in jail for, I believe, a few weeks while there was an investigation underway. And he also really pinched nerves over in Japan. He was making anti-Japanese taunts about the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, even going to Tokyo Disneyland and playing songs about atomic bombs and threatening to drop atomic bombs over in Japan. He harassed a Japanese Twitch streamer. He went to a hotel construction site in Osaka and was like yelling, Fukushima, Fukushima, Fukushima. He also filmed himself inside of restaurants, like playing really loud music again with his portable Bluetooth speaker, where even like local police were coming. And then he said like, oh, this is not because of me. It's because Huawei put a Chinese virus on my phone. Like just really immature things. And he actually had to go in front of a judge, and the judge found him guilty. And the judge said, you should have just lowered the volume on your phone. So what he does is essentially working in the sense like he is triggering a lot of emotions in people, very negative emotions, and really hitting a nerve. But the ironic thing is that when you really parse it down into what can you nab him on the law, legally, they're very much like schoolyard pranks or jokes, or I wouldn't even call it a joke, okay? Like, he's a joke, and what he's doing is very horrible. It's almost like bullying. It really is bullying, and when you really think about it, he is trying to bully like the institution. I'm just trying to think of like, what he is trying to satisfy within himself, and I think it's really this middle finger to authority, and he probably found he couldn't get away with it in America, where they would really not only just punch him but use weapons on him. So he's probably going to a lot of these countries where he thinks that they're very forgiving. He even said of Japan, oh, they're a very forgiving people. While he was in Korea, he's like, oh, after doing this thing with the comfort woman statue, he said he was going to go into the Japanese embassy and perhaps ask if they can work things out and for him to be able to go back to Japan. He's facing a travel ban on him in Japan. They don't want him there. And he was pulling all these stunts in like summer to winter of 2023. Then he went over to Israel, pulled all these pranks, went to the Wailing Wall, put up pictures of Harvey Weinstein, and just started like doing all this crazy stuff. And I believe he got kicked out of Jerusalem for like 2 months. But when he was there in the spring, he said, oh, I'm going to go to Korea later this year, and I just want to hit any member of BTS. So already he's like trying to find trigger points. And I think what has saved him, even though, guns are outlawed in Korea with good reason, I never heard anybody argue for guns in Korea. Another video I've already made. But I think what has saved him is that Korea was last on the list in the recent round of his countries. Like, he's been to Thailand and Colombia. And so because it looks like he has no agenda, like he has no anti-Korean agenda, I think that's the only thing keeping him alive in Korea right now, honestly. Because he's insulting Korea, but because he just came out of Japan as well, and he got a travel ban for insulting the Japanese, and especially since he was insulting one of the key monuments of Korean expression of independence against Japanese colonial rule, the fact that he was jailed in Japan for insulting Japanese people, I think, is the only thing keeping him alive in Korea. Otherwise, guns or no guns, there would be no more Johnny Somali in Korea. So only Johnny Somali can answer the question of why he does what he does and what it fulfills within him. And then also for his viewers, why do the viewers like watching that kind of crude humor that is so insulting? But what we can see from the reaction to it, if you're not a fan of Johnny Somali's humor and you don't like Johnny Somali, and then you do feel a ways of like, this is insulting of what he is doing, when I was trying to find the silver lining in this, because there's something provocative, although I do not agree with what he is doing, and puncher too. Oh, I hate to admit, but like, I think he deserves it. I do think that the punchers should also be dealt with by the same law to everybody else. But I think these punchers well knew that, like, I don't care what this punch is going to cost. I want to punch this guy. I'm sure most people wanted to. But what I think was very interesting about this situation with Johnny Somali, especially in Korea, is that he is really bringing up in the normal Korean person's mind something they don't think about. Where is that line between what we want to legislate or put into laws, and then what we just probably maybe assume are laws, but actually aren't on the law books and really maintained by social customs, culture, and society's laws. So you could see definitely from like the bus, for example, those people in there arguing with him, telling him, turn down the music, stop insulting, all these kind of things, were upholding basic social etiquette, social order, social laws. But he kept going, and he's going in a juvenile manner where he's not like stealing things. He's not defacing things except the convenience store, which actually that was added to the police charges because that was obstructing a business. But in general, he is not taking things that normally are in the laws, like property and life. He's not taking those things, but he's kind of taking something even more valuable. It's like that intangible part. And so I think what this really does is kind of give an interesting mental pretzel to think about. Where that line is, how much you want to regulate, because you can see a lot of Korean people holding back on, they are angry that the punchers in frustration are the ones that are being treated as criminals, taken away, like even in handcuffs. But they also don't want to relax the law on people just punching, because then otherwise everybody is going to be punching, and then there's going to be a whole bureau of who deserved a punch or not. So it's easier just to say no punches. But then on the other hand, it starts to really test these boundaries of like, what should we regulate or not, and how much of it is based on our values as a society. And he's definitely crossing all the lines. But what I really do hope comes out of this is more of an awareness that really a society has no real safeguards or protections legally against this type of bullying. And I do believe this Johnny Somali is exhibiting signs of like narcissistic personality disorder, and especially the narcissistic personality disorder people are the bullies, and how when they provoke and they instigate a lot of those things even in a non-Johnny Somali world, but just in your home, in your office, in your social environments, that a lot of these attacks definitely don't fall under any kind of illegal activities most of the time with the law. But even in social situations, most of the times they're brushed off, passed over, kind of labeled as a misunderstanding, and then that victim is just seething, or the victim takes action and then they're blamed as the aggressor. So hopefully out of all of this, what the gift, if you want to put it that way, that Johnny Somali may give to the Korean public and public around the world is a reminder that you should take these aggressions seriously, and you should pay attention and believe victims who are being bullied in this manner, that it's a very legitimate attack, even though you can't go to the police with it, you can't go, usually, cry about it, but that it's really there, and that it really is the crowd, the societies, up to them to stop somebody like Johnny Somali. You can't really wait for the law. In this case, we're seeing clearly that he is at least facing a bit of friction because he is being investigated for actual crimes, and that's the only thing they can nab him on. If they want to force him being deported, because a lot of people are like, why can't we just deport him? Again, it's the, you don't want to have the bureau of he deserves to be deported for any little thing. And so in Korea, if they're following the law, only a criminal charge that is punished can trigger forced deportation. So they're holding him in right now, trying to, I believe, force him to be deported, but they have to prove the criminal charges first, and then maybe actually they will hold him in. Maybe he will be in jail. But from what I heard in Korea, them jails are overflowing. People who are actual criminals are just being released because there's just no space. There's just like so much criminalization going on over in Korea. What's going on over there? And so if it is a criminal law that he broke, then he could go to jail and he could be forced to be deported. In the meantime, Korea can force him to not exit the country until the investigation is done, because he did all these things on Korean soil. He is subject to Korean laws. And let this be also a lesson for a lot of Americans going around the world. It's not the British Empire where you have the law of extraterritoriality wherever you step foot. You are subject to the laws of the country you are in, and a lot of the times, the institutions, the culture, the law, like how the law is applied, is not going to be what you assume they would do in America. So let this be a learning lesson for everybody, that if you come to Korea, you want to play a Squid Game, you want to F around and find out, well, you're going to end up like Mr. Somali here. All right, guys, what did you think about all the videos? Were you shocked as much as I was? And were you also thinking like, usually I don't condone physical violence, but a slap or a little punch here and there, maybe he deserved it. All right, guys, put your comments below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.